Hey everybody, welcome to part 2 of the preseason snowmobile maintenance. We're going to be changing the engine oil and the chain case oil on my 2016 Yamaha Viper today. It's pretty cold outside today. It's about minus 10 Celsius, but we got the little buddy heater out and we're keeping it warm out in the garage. And started off at about minus 5, and we're almost to 5 degrees there now. So should be able to keep warm and work on this baby and get it ready for the season. First thing I'm going to do is just fire it up just so that all the oils are kind of somewhat warm so they drain a little bit easier. So yeah, we'll go ahead. Like I said, it was about minus 10 this morning, so not a real cold start, but a bit of one. There we go. So there we go, it's been about 5 minutes. We got a little heat in her now, so go ahead and turn her around. There, just like that. She's all warmed up and ready to work on. Next step is I'm going to take off the plastics on both sides and this little black shroud or shield or whatever you want to call it. Going to take it off too, just to access stuff and make it a bit easier to work around stuff. Once you get your shields off, just to get this black shroud off, there's 2 little clips on each side here, and it just pulls out up top. If you do that on both sides, you'll be able to take the whole thing off, and makes it a lot easier to get the stuff in here. Alrighty, so it's pretty straightforward. There's 3 bolts that hold in it up here. There's a sensor here that comes off the muffler, and it plugs in just up top, up there, in that little white connector there. And there's a spring back here that hooks onto it. So once that off, you should be able to pull her out by hand and get to the next step. Alright, so the next step is going to be getting this little foot cover off here. We got to get to those hoses and stuff in behind there, so we got to take that off. I think it's a Torx 20 to take those off, but we'll see. So there we go. It was a Torx 20, and it went pretty good, actually. So I just like to put all the little screws and bolts and stuff back in their place, just so that I remember where they go. So we'll do that, and then we'll get to the next step. Alrighty, next up, now that we got that cover off, our drain plug's right there. It's a 14mm bolt. So we're going to need something to divert the oil from where the drain plug is to that little hole so we don't make a mess. So where'd I put it here? Over here. I just cut the top off of an old oil container. So if we stick that in there, jam it in, put a little rag underneath or something to hold it up, it should divert the oil back into that drain pan and won't make as big of a mess anyway. And something else that I like to do before I drain the oil on anything, I always make sure you can get the cap off. That way it vents properly and you know for sure that you can get oil back into it. So there we go, we got a rag stuffed in back there. The oil's draining through. Just a little something to hold it in there, and made a little mess, but for the most part it went in the drain pan, so I'll take that. So it's pretty well done draining there now, so just little slow drips there now, so we'll go ahead and throw that plug back in and go to the next part. So now that we've got that plug back in, we're going to take our reverse actuator off the chain case here. So we got to take this plug out and then take these 3 Torx screws out. Once we get that off, then we can start pulling some more stuff apart. So there we go. Once you got your, you had to take the 2 sensors out, actually, sorry. But once you get that out, you can go ahead and pull the actuator off. And then move on to the next step. Now, I think before I start taking any of the lines off to remove the oil tank, I'm going to take out this little screw down here. Just to kind of be able to move this plastic around and have a little bit more room inside of there to get at some stuff. So there we got that little screw out. It was also a Torx 20. Now we got to take this oil line off. This line off here. And that one down there. And then I think we should be able to get the tank off and get to the chain case after that. There, so I finally got all those hoses off. That was the biggest test so far. I think there's a little clamp here that holds those 2 hoses together. That popped both of them off. And the vent tube on top. And then now we can start taking our little Torx screws out here that hold the chain case on, because instead of taking the oil tank right off the chain case cover, I'm just going to leave it all together. So I'll just take the Torx out here, and then we'll be able to drain the oil in the chain case. So there, I got all those little Torx screws out. Some of them were a little tricky, but overall it wasn't too bad. So just letting it drain there now, and then be able to pull it apart and then clean it out, make sure everything's good, and start putting it back together. So I got that cover off. It was a little tight trying to get it off with that oil container on it, but we ended up getting it off. To put it back on, I might take it off just to make it a little easier. It's pretty clean inside of here. This gear, sorry to put the light there. This gear right here fell off on me, so I put that back on. That washer goes on there if it ever fell off for you guys. I gotta clean off that magnet, clean off basically the hole inside of it, check the tension, make sure it's okay. But other than that, it's pretty clean. This is what the inside of the cover looks like. It's still pretty clean actually, and they say you got to check right here. You'll get a wear mark there from those where that magnet is, where that build up with those little metal shavings on there. It'll start kind of grinding its way through, so that looks pretty good. But one thing that does concern me is I took it apart and there's no slides for the chain here. There's supposed to be 2 plastic slides in there to make the chain spin around and kind of go off of it or whatever. But they're not there, so I don't know if the last guy that took it apart didn't put them back in, or if I have to do some research and maybe there's not supposed to be any in this one. But I'm pretty sure there is. But I know this chain case was tore apart last winter after a trip that we went on in Quebec, because the sled wouldn't go in reverse for me. So I brought it back to the dealership that I bought it at, and they were supposed to go over it and make sure everything was good, and they said everything was good inside, but maybe they forgot to put those slides back in. So have to do some research, maybe make a couple phone calls and see why they're not there. But other than that, it looks pretty clean, so I'm pretty happy. Alrighty, so it turns out there definitely is supposed to be 2 plastic guides that go here and here. So fast forward about 2 weeks later, I had to search through a couple different dealerships, but anyway, I ended up getting the guides that are supposed to go in there and the clips for them. It's actually, I had to get them from an Arctic Cat dealership because it's an Arctic Cat chain case. But anyway, heck of a time trying to find those. At first I called a couple of Yamaha dealerships and they told me they were going to be back ordered till mid-February. So we would have been in a quite the predicament there. So happy that we got them now. And anyway, it's Christmas Eve here today, so hopefully we can get it all put back together today and be ready for the new year. So there, finally got those 2 guides in. So now I'm going to go ahead and take a rag and maybe some brake clean and just kind of clean out the inside of the chain case and try to get any shavings out as much as I can and get the old oil out as much as I can. And also, you'll see down here in the actual chain case, there's a magnet down here, right down there. That's where that all those shavings will build up and kind of start scratching or marking your chain case cover. So that's what they say to look out for, and that's the big reason why you have to change oil in these. So we're going to scrape off those shavings off that magnet. And also up here on your little post for your reverse actuator, there's a magnet right there too. So we'll clean all that up and clean out the inside of the chain case and put her back on and be all set to rip here pretty soon. Also, like I mentioned in part 1 of the sled maintenance video, I also got a new gasket for the chain case itself, so go ahead and change that. Part number for that's right there if you guys are looking for it. It's 8JP-G7558-02. So, there you go. There we go, that new gasket's in. The old one was right down here. Kind of a blackish black color. This one's kind of more like a brown or an orange. Anyway, this one's supposed to be a little bit thicker and help with leaking or whatever. I had a little leak underneath the chain case and the oil tank. I'm not too sure if it was a loose hose clamp or if it was coming from this gasket, but hopefully it was coming from this gasket, and we'll have it all figured out and fix that leak and be able to get everything put back together here shortly. Also, one more thing before we go to throw this cover back in, we got to take this the spring and the actual drive for the actuator out, because to get it back in the right way, we got to take it out and kind of line it up so that it goes in the right way. So it's in forward when we put it back in, and then when we go to shift it in reverse, that it can shift in reverse without any issues. So we gotta go ahead and pop this out. I think we just gotta take this piece out, and then this should pop out, and then we'll be able to put it back in after. There, now that we got our magnets all cleaned off, we can go ahead and throw that cover back on the same way it was before, and we'll be all set. So I was able to get the whole cover and the reservoir back on pretty easily. It actually went on easier and it came off, so I didn't bother taking the oil reservoir off. Now I'm going to go ahead and get all our Torx bolts put back in there, and I think the torque spec for these bolts is something like 12 foot-pounds, but I don't know, call that snug in my book. So we'll go ahead and do that and And yeah, hopefully that'll all be good and that gasket will seal well and we won't have any leaks. One thing I forgot to mention is for all those Torx bolts that we're putting back in this chain case cover, you're going to want to make sure you use a little bit of blue Loctite just so that they don't rattle loose. So anyway, if you snug them up and put a little bit of this on it, you should be good and have no worries. Alrighty, so we got the cover back on. There's 11 Torx bolts in total. Make sure they're all tight all the way around, that they're all sealing that gasket properly. Now the reason we had to take that gear out for the actuator is because that's where you fill it up with the new chain case oil. And in the manual it says it takes 12 ounces. And if you get the Yamaha Lube full synthetic chain case oil, it comes in 8.5 ounce bottles. But on the side there's a little sight gauge here, so I bought 2 of them, but instead of being at 8.5, we'll fill it up to 12 there, and then just be able to dump one full container, and then it should be at the right level. But if you just want to double check if you're at the right level or not, there's a sight glass just right down here that you can go and check out and see if it's at the right level or not there. So anyway, we'll go ahead and fill it up with the 12 fluid ounces, and hopefully that gets us to where we need to be. There we go. We got her filled up right at the 12 ounce mark now, so we can go ahead and dump it into the chain case through that little hole there. I'll get the camera set up and give you guys a view of it. So there we go. After filling it up, if we check our sight glass with those 12 ounces, you can see the level there right in the sight glass. So it's right where it needs to be, and I don't see any leaks underneath there. So hopefully we're good, but keep checking on it. I'm hoping that leak was just from that old gasket, but anyway, time will tell. So hopefully we're good to go. Alrighty, so when we go to put our little actuator gear back in here, we want to make sure that the reverse gear is all the way, I guess, in towards the sled, because that means that it's going to be in the forward position. So we want to make sure that it's all the way in there. So in order to do that, you're going to want to take your gear and turn it so that it gets to be all the way counterclockwise. And once you do get it all the way counterclockwise, push it in all the way. And then your indent should be facing the bottom, just like that. So once you get your gear back in, you can go ahead and throw your spring in this piece back in. And it should sit with that indent in that little knoll right there. But in order to make your actuator go on a little bit easier, you're going to just want to spin it clockwise just a hair. And that'll just make the actuator set a little bit better in that gear, and you'll be able to get it in there a little bit easier. Get that gear back put on in the right orientation, you can go ahead and throw your actuator back on. Once you get your actuator hooked back up, you can go ahead and rehook all your electrical connections. So I forgot to mention there's one for the speedometer down here too that goes down to the chain case here. I didn't unconnect that one. This blue one that goes to the side of the actuator, and this other gray one here. Other than that, you should be good. Now that we have all those electrical connections all put back on the other side of the chain case, we can go ahead and hook up all our oil lines. So there's one up top here, one on the side here, and then 2 on the bottom down here that we have to connect. And also, I forgot to mention earlier, for the one top Torx bolt on the chain case cover, there's also the little hook for the wiring here, so try not to forget that. But yeah, other than that, we go ahead and hook up all those oil lines, and then we can get ready to finish changing the oil. Now we've got all our oil lines connected again. So yeah, there's this one here, the 2 at the bottom, and then the one at the bottom comes back up top here, and then this breather or whatever that is up top. And yeah, you should be all set up for that. And then the next step is going to be, oh, also don't forget there's that holder here for those 2 oil lines there. Don't forget that. Don't forget your little Torx bolt that goes in there for the side panel to hold that in. And then after that, we can put our little foot cover back here and beside the chain case. Another thing that it doesn't hurt to do is just kind of clean up everything down there just to see if you have any leaks. So it's pretty clean there right now, so if we do have a leak, we'll be able to see pretty quickly. So my next step is going to be to drain the oil filter and the rest of the oil that's in the bottom of the crankcase and the engine. So to do that, I think I'm going to have to take it off the lift here, because that shield that I have to take off is just kind of up underneath there. It's right underneath this cross member here for the lift, so probably take it off the lift, put it on the ground, and should make it a little bit easier to work on. Alrighty, so I was able to get that cover off just by wiggling the sled around a little bit on the lift, so I didn't have to take it off. But you'll see down there, underneath here, there's 4 Torx 20 bolts that hold that in. Your oil filter's there. And then that little bolt with the orange O-ring on it, that's your drain plug. So we'll take those off, let it drain, then we'll be able to put the new filter on and the drain plug with the new O-ring back in. And we can start filling it up with some fresh oil. Well, I finally got it off. You can see it dripping out of the where the drain plug goes and where the filter is. Whoever put this filter on must have really not liked me very much, because that was on way tighter than it should have been. Of course, I don't have the right size filter wrench, and of course it's Christmas Eve today, so all the stores are closed now. But anyway, the old punch a screwdriver through with a hammer did the trick, didn't damage anything, so that's good. So anyway, being that it's Christmas Eve, I'm going to let this drain overnight, and hopefully we'll be back within the next couple days to wrap up this video and get this old girl running again. Alrighty, so it's actually been a couple days now since I started draining the oil in it, but filter's off, drain plug's out, and there's nothing coming out there now, so we'll go ahead and put that back on. And then I forgot to, with that oil change kit, there's another gasket for that drain plug underneath the actual tank. I'll have to take that foot cover back off. I forgot about that. Other than that, we can throw that muffler back on, fill it up with oil, and it should be good to go. Before I throw the new filter back on, I'm just going to take some fresh oil and just coat that seal on there, so hopefully the next time I take it off it won't be so bad. There we go. Okay, so we got the new O-ring on that drain plug there, new crush washer on the drain plug underneath, and now we're ready to throw the muffler back on, and that should be the last step before filling it up with oil. So I just kind of cleaned everything up down there too, and I kept that little pan off underneath the engine there, the little access panel. I kept that off for now just to make sure there's no leaks. But other than that, put the muffler on and we'll fill her up with some fresh oil. Alright, so I finally got the muffler back on. There's 2 little rubber bushings. I just kind of threw a little bit of grease on there so they slide in better. Seemed to go in pretty good. Took a little bit of force, but we got her. Don't forget your O2 sensor up here above the muffler that plugs in up there. Your spring in behind, and the 3 bolts there, and now we should be able to start filling it up with oil. Alrighty, so now that everything's put back together, we can go ahead and start filling it up with oil. The owner's manual says to fill it up with 2.8 liters of the 040 full synthetic engine oil, and then I think that pretty much fills your tank up. But then by the time it's all said and done, I think it takes about 4 something liters. So basically I have to fill up the oil, run the engine, let it kind of suck in, and then shut it off, and basically keep doing that until we get to the right level, which is 4 point something liters. So anyway, I'll pour 1.5 of these in, or 2.5 of those, sorry, and see where we get from there. All right, so I fill it up with 2.8 liters of oil. I think the proper level, once it cycles through, should be about 3.5 to 4 liters. But anyway, I'll cycle it through and fire it up and let it run for a little while, warm up a bit, and then check that level again. But anyway, we're gonna fire it up here and check for leaks. Alrighty, here we go. Light, I want to make sure that comes off. There we go. I'm gonna let it warm up until that light quits flashing. See any leaks down there? See any leaks there? There we go, and I'm just gonna let it run until that temperature light quits going on and off. We should be all set. We'll check the level again. So there, I ran it right until that little temperature light went out up there. I was told when I bought the sled, if you shut it off before that goes off, it fouls out the plugs. So I always try to let it run until that light comes off. But anyway, while it was warming up, I cycled it in and out of reverse a couple times, and everything seemed to work. So didn't see any leaks yet anyway, so that's a good sign. But I'm going to go ahead and throw that little access panel back on underneath. And then, while I'm doing that, I'll wait for the oil to kind of come back into the tank and see where that level's at, and then fill it up according to the full mark there. But yeah, the next step will be putting that cover back on, and then we can start throwing more shields back on after that too. Well, I ended up putting all 4 liters of oil that I had into it, and it's kind of just sitting right on the bottom of the normal mark, but so I could use a bit more, but that's all I got. So anyway, my last step before I go out for a little rip there, I'm just going to throw on my trail passes for Ontario and Quebec, throw them on and go for a little rip, make sure everything's going all right. But no, thanks for watching, guys, really appreciate it. And sorry it took so long to get the second part out, but anyway, it's done now. So thanks for watching, and see you next time. What's going on, YouTube? Figured I'd get myself a little fire going on a beautiful Saturday afternoon here. Anyway, ended up taking the old Viper for about a 20-kilometer ride last night just to make sure everything was good with it. Everything seemed to run pretty good, but anyway, they got a bunch of rain coming for the next couple days, so left her outside last night, but now we're gonna go park her in the garage, so might as well see how she starts up this morning. Actually, I went to the Yamaha dealership this morning, and they told me there's a flash update, so it doesn't start up the greatest, but anyway, if I get that update done, hopefully it fixes it, but we'll see how she starts up today. It's about, I don't know, -5 right now. There we go. Get its heat on. Yeah. Beautiful Saturday here in Maxwell, Ontario. Figured I'd get a fire going. Why not, eh? Why not? Beautiful day. Maybe prop some lawn chairs out there. Get nice and toasty. Enjoy the weather while we have it. And maybe we'll get some friends over later. Who knows? Wait and see what happens. Hey guys, if you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Anyway, yeah, no, it was quite the job changing the oil and the chain case oil in that 2016 Viper. I would recommend, if you're somewhat mechanically inclined, you'll be fine, but if not, I wouldn't attempt it. Actually, I was laughing today. I was at the Yamaha dealership this morning, picking up a little bit more oil just to top it off, and I looked at the shop rates, and it was $30 to change the chain case oil, and 104 or something starting at to change the engine oil, plus parts and other stuff like that, parts and materials. But No, I looked at that sign and I said, well, by the amount of time that I spent doing that, maybe I didn't save that much money. But anyway, now I know that it's done right and don't have to worry about that. So, no, anyway, guys, appreciate you. Thanks for watching. And yeah, we got the old snowblower going here. Sorry I haven't gotten a video on that yet, but maybe in time we'll get her done. I got the lights put on. They're pretty sweet. But yeah, no, thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. And we'll catch you in the next one. Happy New Year and Merry Christmas if I haven't seen you yet. Take care.